And we're ready when you are, Mayor.
For those who are attending remotely, the camera in the council room is set up to show those attending in person tonight. The platform we are using has a raised hand feature. You will notice a picture of a hand in the upper right-hand corner. When we reach the point in the meeting where the public has the opportunity to address council, you can click the button and will be given your opportunity to address council. Hang on 1 second. Let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Mayor.
I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, nation under God, indivisible, liberty and justice for all.
Moment of silence. Moment of silence for the prohibited.
Oh, and could we have a moment of silence for all the Americans lost 79 years ago today during Pearl Harbor? Thank you, everyone. Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Skelly,
Here.
Councilor Dilaba,
Here.
Councilor Fisher,
Here.
Councilor Kennedy,
Here.
Councilor Powers,
Here.
Councilor Reed,
Here.
Councilor Scamperly,
Here.
quorum present.
We do not have any presentations tonight. We have 4 public hearings tonight. The first public hearing is regarding a local law authorizing the property tax levy in excess of the limit established in General Municipal Law 3-C. It is going to be Bill number 108, and I will open that to a public hearing now. If you are attending remotely and would like to speak regarding the public hearing, please use the raise hand feature in the upper right-hand corner of your screen, and you will have 5 minutes to speak.
I do not see any hands raised.
Okay, I will declare that public hearing closed. The next public hearing regarding the adoption of a preliminary 2021 budget, it is going to be Bill number 109, and I will open that to public hearing up now. Again, use the raise hand feature in your upper right-hand corner of your screen, and you'll have 5 minutes to speak.
The first individual is registered as David Price, and I will unmute that individual now.
Good evening, Council. Obviously, this is an important meeting when you're having a public hearing to discuss a budget, which when you discussed it last week, you called it a preliminary budget, yet you're still shifting monies around. So when is the plan to present to the public where the monies will actually be? Is that after you voted in? Is it now? When do you plan on telling us all where the monies are going to be shifted around to, into which line items? Do you have an answer for that question? Okay. The next question I have is, do you know who the city attorney works for? The city attorney is called the city attorney. They represent the people and they represent the council. They do not represent the city manager. So when Councilor Powers asked, maybe it was Councilor Scamperly, when they asked where or how much money was going to be put aside to fight litigation, and the city manager claims counsel or client privilege, it's ridiculous. We need to know where that money is going to be. We're going to talk about a budget. We need to know where in the budget and how much money in the budget is going to be set aside for your potential litigation. As you move forward with this budget, which is irresponsible at best, You are moving forward with elimination of positions that you don't need to eliminate. You're going to cry to the state and to the federal government that you need money while you're cutting taxes. Those things will be seen as, opposing concepts. There's no entity that's going to give you money when you say we're cutting our own revenues. Also, I notice in this agenda that you've changed the order of business. Now, you continue to preach about facts and transparency, yet you change the order of the meeting so that you can restrict public comment, allowing public comment only to take place after the public hearings, not before. In addition, you schedule a special meeting so you can adopt a budget on Wednesday when you already have a scheduled meeting next Monday, which is still more than a week ahead of when the budget has to be adopted by. I can only guess that you're doing so once again to silence the public, to keep people from speaking, so that you can have a secret meeting where no one attends, no one can speak, and you can push forward your agenda to hurt the people of the city and take away their public safety. We all know the motives behind it. These are tax savings for a few individuals who happen to sit on this council. They are not for the greater good of the city. They are not for the greater good of the people, and they certainly fly in the face of any concept of public safety. We have a person at the helm and a city manager who has a history of being a hatchet man for public safety. So here we are. We sit with no answers. We sit with a lack of transparency, and we sit with a council who's going to vote on a budget, the most important vote you have all year, in a special meeting without any input from the city. We are the people who make the decisions in a democracy, not you. You represent our will. I would suggest you start doing so. You don't need a special meeting on Wednesday to adopt this budget. Adopt it next Monday. Give the people a chance to do it. Unless you're afraid that when you shifted money around after the fact, people are going to notice exactly where you put it. Because you can't hide $500,000 and call it dank in the DPW budget. You can't hide it in certain contingency areas. We all know what it's for. We all know what it's for. It's so that you can fight the legal battles that are coming, and you know you're going to lose. That's taxpayer money.
Thank you.
Am I 5 minutes up?
No, I thought you were done.
Am I 5 minutes up?
I don't believe so.
Do you know how much time I have left, Mayor?
I do not.
35 seconds, sir.
35 seconds.
Okay, I'll wait and see if I get an answer in that 35 seconds.
Kathy, please go on to the next one.
Mayor, I still have 35 seconds, I was told.
You apparently don't have anything else to say.
Oh, I do, but I'm waiting for the answer. I can provide the answer for you if you would like me to, or you're going to give me one.
Thank you, Bryce. We have many people. We want to get to them all. Go ahead, Kathy.
Thank you, Mr. Price.
The next individual is registered as Michael Tooley, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears you're self-muted, sir. It appears your
All
line
right,
is open.
thank you. And I'm sorry I signed in late. Is this the public hearing on the budget?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity to address council. I'm going to focus my comments on the general fund. I appreciated comments made by Councilor Reese at the first budget workshop where there was some discussion about the city manager's proposed administrative reorganization. Councilor Reese stated that in his opinion, adoption of the 2021 budget by City Council is not an endorsement of this proposed reorganization. I hope the mayor and all councilors concur with this opinion. Now, in regards to fund balance in the general fund, in his opening comments to City Council when he introduced the proposed 2021 city budget, the city manager stated in part, there is no fund balance to take from to help in 2021. But in my review of the audit report of city finances as of December 31st, 2019, I see the general fund balance increased in 2019 by $346,000. A sizable increase, despite a reduction of fund balance, the impact of over $600,000 of the write-off of the receivables, and despite recording an allowance for doubtful accounts of $500,000, further lowering the fund balance calculation. Absent those two actions, revenue would have exceeded expense in 2019 by $1.4 million. And let me say, I do think both those actions were appropriate. The total fund balance in the general fund as of December 31st, 2019 is $2,572,000. I believe it's a reasonable fund balance. The Government Finance Officers Association recommends the municipality maintain an unrestricted fund balance equal to 2 months of general operating revenue or 2 months of general operating expense. The general fund balance as of December 31st, 2019 is very close to this recommended number. But at the same time, as I stated at a previous city council meeting earlier this year, a function of fund balance is to provide support to a budget under extenuating circumstances. I think such circumstances exist. I again suggest the city apply up to $500,000 in fund balance in 2021 to help maintain city services, as well as to buy time for the development of an updated 3 to 5 year budget projection, but not with the restrictions used by Tim Johnson and Sarah Purdy in the projection they shared with City Council last January. That projection maintained flat assessment, no other new revenue, no use of fund balance beyond the amount applied in 2020. But I qualify my suggestion by saying the council has provided a responsible projection of general fund revenue and expense for the current year, and it projects a significant loss, then use of applied fund balance is not available. So I hope City Council has been provided a forecast of 2020 revenue and expense before making a decision on the 2021 budget. And then comments specific to a couple of items in the budget. The account for refund or write-off of property taxes. The proposed 2021 budget shows $75,000 for this expense, zero budgeted last year. But I question the need of this funding if the city intends to maintain an allowance for uncollectible accounts as of the end of this year. In 2019, the city recorded an increase in the allowance of doubtful accounts from $4,700 to $500,000. It seems to be a responsible decision, particularly when there were refunds and write-offs of $582,000 in 2018 and $386,000 in 2019. But I don't think you need both an allowance for doubtful accounts as well as an expense account for refund of taxes. Also, a point to consider, if you were to reduce the allowance account, that would increase the fund balance. So in other words, if you reduce that allowance from $500,000 to $250,000, that frees up $250,000 of fund balance to help your budget or to save again for a rainy day. Next, legal consultant. I noted an increase in the budget from $100,000 to $150,000 is budgeted. I offer this as it might provide an answer to the question asked at the fire department budget workshop about the estimated legal expense if the city opts to take action that violates its contract with the fire department's union. But I note that might only be a partial answer, and while it's not an apples to apples comparison, a recent story in the Watertown Daily Times stated the city of Watertown has incurred over $900,000 in legal expenses in its legal issues with its fire department over the past 4 years. Then lastly, interest income. I'd be curious for an explanation as to why there's a decrease in this revenue from $100,000 to $45,000. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike.
The next individual is registered as Kenny Sharrow, and I will unmute that individual now. And that person has dropped off. The next individual is registered as Angie McRoberts, and I will unmute that individual now.
Yeah, this is Scott McRoberts. I would just like to follow up on the previous two speakers. At the last council meeting, I did ask quite a few questions, was hoping to be able to get some answers tonight, if you guys listen to them at all. I know you guys don't care to answer in public. When would the taxpayers be allowed to get some answers from the council with regards to the questions? I believe Mr. Price and Mr. Tooley had some very valid questions that really need answers. Could somebody give me some ideas as to when we get our answers? Mayor Skelly, you have posted on your Facebook your telephone number. Feel free to ask me any questions you would like. I'm asking you right now. I prefer not to do it in private. Let's get it out there for all the taxpayers to hear. I'm asking, I want answers. What's the answer going to be?
Scott, this is not a question and answer session.
When is it? When do we get our answers then? Could you guide me on that?
You had my phone number and it's still
No.
there.
Yeah, but why are you afraid to answer in public? Why is everybody afraid to answer in public? We're all taxpayers. It's reasonable. Everybody's asking reasonable questions. And you guys sit up there and use that same line. This isn't a Q&A. When do we get our answers as taxpayers?
When the
Mr.
budget
City Manager,
when
can
the
you
budget
elaborate?
passes, you're just grandstanding. Do you have more to
No, I'm
say?
not grandstanding, Mike. No, I'm not grandstanding. I want a few answers. I asked questions at the last meeting, no answers. People have brought them up tonight. But why do we speak if we can't get any answers from our elected officials? Why do you even bother having this? Are you afraid to answer something? And don't say I'm grandstanding. You don't know me.
There's
I
three
care
other
about the
council.
city of Ogdensburg as much as you, and probably more than the city manager. I've lived here my whole life. I believe that I deserve
Or
to answer.
Powers or Kennedy, if they wish to answer any of your questions, they're welcome to.
Hard
I'm
enough
pretty
keeping
sure they
track
didn't
of
have
the
a big
amounts
hand in the
involved.
budget. I'm asking you, Mayor Skelly, you and the other three counselors and the city manager developed the budget. I don't believe you included the other three counselors, so why would I go to them?
No one has been excluded.
The public has, because you're not answering our questions.
You can only be involved if you participate.
I'm participating right now. I'm participating right now as a tax-paying citizen of the city, and I'm getting nowhere. Is that the way it's going to be for the next 3 years? You guys sit up there on your thrones and don't answer anything? You don't feel you have to answer to the public? Dead silence. Is that the way it's going to be for 3 years? You can't even have the courtesy to answer anybody. You guys are unreal.
Move on.
You are so confident in your actions, but yet you can't speak to, you can't be second guessed. Or we don't deserve answers. We're not smart enough. Is that it?
This is not the forum for questions.
Then tell me where the forum is, Mike. Where's the forum? If it isn't a council meeting, when's the forum? This is a public hearing. When is the forum? Let's hear the answer.
Previous councils didn't answer questions either.
I'm not talking to the previous council. I'm talking to this council.
Do you have any other stuff? We have a lot of people.
Yeah, I'm waiting for my answer as Mr. Price was. And I'll keep talking so you don't cut me off.
Well,
Do I want to play some music while we're waiting, or?
no, keep going or we're moving on.
No, let me ask you this. When you guys revise the budget and put all the contingency that you have in there, are you going to specifically put it in line items? Because as Mr. Jelly stated, with the fire department, you've got 1.2 million, but all but a couple $100,000 is already spoken for. Are we going to get to see that revised budget before you vote on it on Wednesday?
You'll see everything in the finished budget.
So we don't get to see it beforehand. So we don't get to ask any more questions, not that we get anywhere with it.
When does the public get an opportunity to see the finalized budget? And when do they get an answer to the questions myself, Councilor Scamperly, Kennedy, even Councilor Fisher has asked, and Councilor Dillabaugh has asked?
Thank you. Your time is up.
I'll be back.
Kathy, who's next?
The next individual is registered as Penny Sharrow, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears you are self-muted. It appears the line is open.
Okay, my line's open now, isn't it?
Yep.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
All right, I've been listening to the last few comments or the last few people speak, and maybe it's my background, but I always thought we got places with teamwork. I don't understand, and I guess I probably won't get an answer from what I'm seeing here reflected, why if there is a grant out there which has been brought to the forefront, saving fire departments and first responders, and it's brought up by the federal government, when they are offering money, why do we not take advantage of it? One of the things as a taxpayer here is the safety of our city. And the fire department's always been there for us. The police department's been there for us. And having a paid fire department is something that you could rely on. I don't
We
care
will,
about the people that are sitting around and bad mouthing them, saying they're not doing this, that. That's wrong. We have a paid fire department. It's one of the things our taxes pay for. And the federal government is offering money for us to save them for 3 to 5 years. In 3 to 5 years, we'll have the retirements we might be looking at. We'll have the concessions that they've made in their contract. I don't understand why we don't take advantage of applying for that grant. Maybe I'm
Penny?
wrong. But is that, am I wrong? Is there not a grant there?
we will be looking into that grant in 2021.
I would think urgency would be the priority on this, Mike, especially before the budget comes through. And then we can focus on something else because we would have saved that money. We could focus on something else like developing different areas and going out and actually looking for people to come to this town. Do you think a company's going to want to come here if they don't have the safety of a paid fire department to get to the facility if something happens? Or the lower insurance rates they may get with their company because we have a paid fire department? I've worked for the city for 28 years in the summer program, which now has gone away. 28 years I've gone through 5 rec directors and now there's none. And I was very pleased that you opened the pool last summer, and I thought that was a step in the right direction. And I was more than happy to step up and help you out on that. And and for the kids in the city, because we are a city, there are people here that don't have an awful lot. And that was a wonderful provision for them. But we need to work together as a team. And if that grant is there and that will take the focus off our fire department and all this infighting, then and we could focus on developing this city like we planned on doing, then that grant needs to be addressed, and it needs to be addressed like now, like immediately, so that we can move on to something else and stop all this, so we can look outside the box and try to figure out how we're going to get this city back on their feet. That's all I'm asking. I just don't understand it. And I would like to know who's going to look into that grant. And I would like to know how it's being worked on. And I would gladly help work on the grant. I would write the grant. I would take it upon myself to write the grant if you gave me permission, just so we could get that going and get the fighting and everything else out of the way, and people's lives stop being juggling around with people's lives and your problems that you're having problems with people and other people are having problems with people. What a mess. Let us get the grant. Let us go after it and go after it wholeheartedly together as a team, not divided. I've worked with you guys. I had you guys all in school, most of you. And I just, you've got minds, you've got your own mind. Think on your own and look at the big picture. Now, I don't know, can I help out in any way? Because I'll gladly help if we can get that grant money and move on to something else to stop the fighting.
Thank you, Benny. We are going to work on that.
And I'm just have to speak my mind because I feel safe with the fire department, with the police department we got. And there's a lot going on in the city that needs to be dealt with. We need them both, and we need to watch each other's backs.
I agree, Benny.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Kathy.
The next individual is registered as Doug Loeffler, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears you are self-muted. It appears your line is open.
Yes. Good evening,
Evening.
Ogdensburg. First of all, Mike, just listening to the last few speakers there, some great points, some great questions. And you made the comment that everybody is invited to make comments from the council. Maybe if you guys that are sitting there tonight, your city manager would lead them to your house after the meetings that you've had, maybe they could get involved a little bit. I would like to say to the public that I did stop into the. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you, Doug. I said you're always welcome, you know that, to come to my house or call me.
Yeah, I stopped at the city manager's office last week, and you were in there, Mayor, and I asked if there's anything been changed to the budget. After all the budget hearings, I asked you the question twice, and the city manager told me the proposed budget is what you were talking about. And then an hour and a half later, I look on your Facebook page, and you're throwing out figures that have been changed in the budget. So
No, that figure was discussed.
No, that was not. I asked you a question. I asked the city manager a question. Okay. I asked the city manager a question, and he lied to me, and you silently sat there and lied. Okay?
No one lied to you, Doug.
No, you're a liar.
Okay, Doug, you're going to be cut off with that. No one lied to you.
Like another one.
Continue on, please.
Are we moving on?
$130,000 is added to the contingency line. What's $430,000?
All broke up.
It appears as though he's still there, Mayor, and his line is still open. It's showing open on my end.
Doug, are you still there, Doug?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Okay. I'd like to know what the $430,000 added to the contingency line is for. I'd also like to know, you had an $84,000 line item for consulting fees in the comptroller's office. Could somebody give us an answer why you do not want to have our own comptroller? And what's going on with the assessor's position in the budget? There's also a $94,000 line item in the planning office. Another city planner. At this time, is another city planner feasible for this community if we're in such dire straits? And you're putting Andrea, she sat there, she was doing a great job as the interim city manager. And the mayor made the statement one night that she had too much on her plate to be the city planner and be the acting city manager. Well, now you're putting her in charge of the comptroller's office, Parks and Rec, and you're putting another planning position in there. Can you tell me why? And you're also putting, how much are we saving under this proposed restructuring? And as Mr. Tooley said, under general government law, you added money there. You're having a special meeting on Wednesday night to pass this budget. The people in this community do not have access to you people to ask questions about what you're finally proposing. And I think that's very, very unfair to the people in this community. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug.
The next individual is registered as Jason Bouchard, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears you are self-muted, sir.
Hey, good evening. Can you hear me?
Yeah, good evening, Jason.
Thank you. Well, good evening, counselors. As I stated last week in our departmental budget hearing, violating our contract by cutting these jobs will cost our citizens. The first cost will be felt immediately in the year 2021. We have lowballed an estimate that taxpayers will pay over $200,000 more simply to violate our contract, leaving 10 local dedicated public safety workers and their families without jobs and health insurance during a global pandemic. The next set of costs is much more significant and far-reaching. By deciding to breach our contract, a legal fight will ensue. While an estimated amount that such litigation will actually cost is not currently being disclosed publicly, make no mistake, this fight with an uncertain outcome will not be cheap. We need to look only 1 hour away to see how much a similar legal battle can cost a municipality and how judges in New York State tend to rule when such contract violations are implemented. The citizens of Ogdensburg and its taxpayers' money will be directed to fight a legal battle with a questionable outcome simply to reduce the services they receive in their hometown. The costs associated with such a move are not simply monetary. It is patently false to indicate that cutting these positions will not impact public safety and our ability to do our job. There are aspects that go into providing our essential service that, simply put, cannot be provided safely or at all if we do not have the manpower to do so. Lessening the burden on taxpayers in the city as the main goal of this administration is noted. We, however, would like to point out that we provide our services to the entire city, taxpayer or not. Feeling safe, as Mrs. Sherrill referred to, and knowing you are being provided with the level of security that citizens of our community have come to expect is a benefit of living here, not a detraction or a reason for mass exodus, as has been portrayed. The most important aspect of running a municipality is doing what is right and necessary to keep its citizens safe. Another cost of this will be upon your terms in office. 1 year is already in the books. During that year, the overarching theme seems to be an all-out attack on public workers and public safety workers. All of you ran for office in order to achieve positive change for our city. Do you really want the vast majority of your term, or the remainder for some, to be wasted, mired in legal battles with the fire department? A decision which will undeniably take away from any truly positive change you had in mind when deciding to run. Is that fair to those that elected you to represent them? Finally, another costly aspect of this can be felt already. Think about the current state of our city. As a nearly lifelong resident, the turmoil, dissension, and division within our city limits is at an unprecedented level. Ogdensburg has been politicized and polarized in a manner which has never been. This type of disunity in our community is unhealthy for our citizens and all of our visitors, Neighbors, friends, and relatives have been living in a community divided. As city leaders and employees, we should be working to unite this community and keep it safe, rather than continue a contentious back and forth, which does nothing but make our city an uncomfortable place to live in, work in, or visit. This is not what Ogdensburg is all about, and not what we stand for. In the true absence of a predetermined political agenda, such drastic, community dividing, safety compromising cuts would only be entertained as a last-ditch effort. Such an action should only take place when all avenues, including but not limited to grants, federal and state aid, cost reduction, and most importantly, revenue generation have been exhausted. I implore council to reconsider these cuts and to move forward into 2021 looking for solutions to our city's problems rather than scapegoats. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Next, Kathy.
I do not see any other hands raised. Two hands just popped up. Mayor, would you like me to proceed?
Yes, please.
Okay. The next individual is registered as Virginia McCarthy, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears your line is open.
Hi, my name is Virginia McCarthy, and I just have some reminders to the council to say and to the city manager. Can you hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm a resident of this community. I'm an employee of this community. My husband is an employee of the fire department in this community. My brother-in-law, it works at the school system. My husband's cousins works at the park and recreation. So I am a member of this community, and I am all in to this community because of all of those things. I didn't just walk into this community. I've grown into this community since 1985. I just want to remind you, when we elect officials to the city council, we do it in hopes that you will stand up for us, not against us. The city council should be our spokesman to take care of the people, not just the residents, not just the few elect or select people that have too many taxes that they pay, but all of us. The hospital, all of us, we need all to be taken care of. By the people, of the people, for the people. That's your job. When you attack us, you think you're only attacking 20 firemen or 4 policemen or 5 parks and recreation, but you're not. You're taking their whole family too, and the community. I work at the hospital. It's a huge building, and Ogdensburg has several big buildings like that at any time that can have over 200 people in them. So when you have that many people, do you really think this could be a volunteer community? The policemen are overwhelmed with meth labs and things like that. We need our public servants. We need the park and recreation. This used to be a community that you could come in and grow old or raise your children. You're changing that for us all. Please think about what you're doing when you cut public servants. Go for the grants. They're out there. You just have to apply. When my husband was interim, he applied for grants. He was only in there 3 months, but he applied for grants. Where are the grants? You know the money is available, especially during a pandemic. To cut these people is ludicrous. As far as for the city manager, also fire chief, if the firemen are bad, go at them. If they're misbehaving, go at them. But if there's people attacking them and fighting them, you're supposed to be fighting for them, not against them. So you're not really a fire chief. That's all I have to say. I'm sorry I'm emotional. I'm not really a public speaker, but I thought this needed to be said. I thank you all for listening.
Thank you. Kathy, next.
The next individual is registered as Felicia Dumas, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears you are self-muted, and it looks like your line is open.
Thank you. I just wanted to briefly address the council tonight. I had spoke a little bit at the last meeting and when you guys were talking about the budget, and at that point in time, it had appeared that there may have been some questions in regards to the Ogdensburg Neighborhood Center line in that budget. I know the city manager was going to reach out to me regarding that. That has not happened. So I just wanted, if there are any questions, if the city manager could please let me know before that budget hearing on Wednesday. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
The next individual is registered as Brian Mitchell, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears you are self-muted.
Good evening. How's everybody doing tonight? Just, we had a lot of good questions and a lot of unanswered questions. I just picked up on one comment the mayor said to Mr. Loeffler, that he's more than welcome tonight to come to the after hours meeting at the mayor's house. I was just wondering, since we're all blocked on Facebook, is it possible the public can show up to this meeting, Mayor, tonight?
I'm not prepared for that many, Brian, but thank you for your interest.
But if we get at least 7, you would accept that?
I have to be careful. I don't want to get too many, get in trouble.
Do you have a limit?
Yeah, yes.
How many would you like?
It's not a question to answer. I'm gonna let you go.
Answer
What you
three of
talk
my
about?
questions, now you won't answer the important one.
You're engaging him.
Yeah, you just told me you'll invite people, now you won't give me an answer, how many?
We have a lot of people, Brian. Do you want to talk about the
No,
city?
you don't, I was the last one, because you had two and I was the last one. So I just asked you a question, you wouldn't answer Mr. McRoberts' question, you won't answer mine, but you invite us to come over, and now you won't tell us how many. So should we show up with 3, 7, 12? You already have 4 there.
Gotta wait for the COVID to spike. So, Brian, I'm gonna let you go and go on to someone else unless you want to, one last chance, you want to talk about the city.
It's the budget.
Well, I
It's
thought
the
I was
budget.
talking about. Yeah, we were talking about the budget. We're trying to get the answers for the after hours, but okay. Thanks, Mayor. I figured you wouldn't answer that either. Have a good night.
The next individual is registered as Jennifer Stevenson, and I will unmute that individual now.
Thank you very much. I've been listening this evening, and I've been listening for quite some time. I've reviewed the budget that is on the city website. I've looked at the restructuring organizational chart, and I have many concerns there. It's not following with what the budget is, though. I see under public safety, EMS has been separated from fire. I've heard that there may be an outside agency that will provide EMS services to the city, but again, I'm not seeing anything in the budget that's telling me who, what, where, how that's going to happen. I'm looking at some items as far as number of officers in the police department and in the fire department. I'm seeing some changes, but I'm not following that in the budget. I really wish we would have the updated changes that have been made to this budget so we can review this as citizens to know where our tax dollars are going. I really caution you on going forward with your plan with the fire department. And I will throw this right out there. Yes, my nephew is a fireman, is a firefighter, and I am very proud of him. When I was on city council, I told him that if I have to make a decision, I will always do it in the best interest of the city because that's who I am charged with representing. And he knew that until that change in contract was done, that I was prepared to reduce the firefighting force to the 24. I wasn't happy about doing that because I think that 24 firefighters, if we have a major fire in the city, is not enough. In the last year, I've had a fire 3 houses from my home with 2 homes very close to it. And as good as our volunteer firefighters are around this county and this state, and I give them all accolades, we would have lost multiple homes had we not had a paid fire department. A few months ago, I had a fire at my apartment house. I was 7 blocks away and got called immediately the same time that the fire department was called. By the time I got there, the kitchen fire was out and it was almost through the ceiling of my apartment house. I could have lost my entire apartment house. My tenants could have lost all of their belongings, possibly pets, and the neighbors' homes would have been in danger too because one of the homes is only 2.5 feet away. I'm looking at this and I'm looking at the budget and I'm looking at the battle that you're prepared to fight. Instead of waiting for the continued savings in the agreements that we have made or we made as city council in the past with our bargaining units, you are jumping the gun here and you're going too fast. You are going to set us up for litigation. In my short travels across the state this year, I have been reached out to by many elected officials from Central New York, from Watertown, from the Albany area, asking what the heck battle is Ogdensburg trying to fight? Don't they know they won't win this? We wish we had never started it. You really need to think that you're gambling not with your money, but with the taxpayers' money. As a taxpayer, I am looking at the loss of not only the services that we receive by these officers, but also an expenditure and having no service. I really think you need to think this over a little bit more. I think you really need to give us some more information. I didn't make any promises when I ran for office. You made promises, and one of those was city workers can sleep well tonight. and your families. We are not going to eliminate any officers. Please keep that promise. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Who's next, Kathy?
I do not see any other hands raised.
I will declare this public hearing closed. The next public hearing is regarding a local law to allow for the changes in the Augsburg Municipal Code, Section 177, entitled Sewer Rates, as dictated by the adoption of the 2021 budget. It is going to be Bill number 110, and I will open that for a public hearing now.
The first individual is registered as David Price, and I will unmute that individual now.
Good evening once again, Council. I do want to point out a couple of points of order here. First of all, these are public hearings, and public hearings are supposed to be an opportunity for the public to voice their opinions on information they've been given. We haven't seen the budget yet, okay? And so it's hard to give an opinion on the budget, and you know, we kind of need to see that in order to give an informed opinion. Also, I would remind this council, and especially the presider, that this is a public hearing. This is not citizen participation. So you can actually answer questions. You don't have to leave the public without information. It's part of the process for a public hearing is to answer questions. And in fact, the mayor has proven that he will answer some questions, just not all of them. You know, so
Do you have
you
any
need to.
comments? Mr.
Excuse
Price?
me?
Mr.
Yeah.
Price, do you have any comments on the sewer?
I do, because you can't talk about sewer rates without talking about excrement, and I want to make sure we get it all out there.
Okay, well.
This is about the sewer rates. The sewer rates are related to the overall budget. And I want to make sure that before I get accused of it, everyone here understands what grandstanding is. Grandstanding is the action of behaving in an ostentatious manner, an attempt to attract favorable attention to the spectators of the media, like you do on your Facebook page. But more importantly, the term gaslighting needs to be shown here. A victim of gaslighting can be pushed so far that they question their own sanity because the person manipulates their actions and their thoughts into thinking that they're crazy.
Mr. Price, will you please talk about the sewer rates? If you have comments on them?
So I'm in opposition to the sewer rates. So not one person since January has spoken in favor of the 4 counselors who continue to push their agenda. All you're hearing is the citizens say, we don't approve of this. It's time that you listen to the citizens. We run this city. Sewer rates or not.
They don't approve of the sewer rates, Mr. Price? We're talking about sewer rates.
We've been talking about sewer all night long, Mayor.
Okay, please.
I think it's a term you're well familiar with.
Yes, I am. Use your time wisely on the sewer rates, please.
So can you please explain the sewer rates to us? If you don't know the sewer rates, do you know the sunshine laws?
Do you have anything, Mr. Price?
I asked you a question, Mayor.
Kathy, please move on.
I do not see any other hands raised.
I will declare this hearing closed. Our last public hearing is regarding a local law to allow for the changes in the Augsburg Municipal Code, Section 215, Sections 39, 40, and 41, entitled Water Rates, as dictated by the adoption of the 2021 budget. It is going to be Bill number 118, and I will open that to public hearing now. Kathy, do you see anyone?
I do not see any hands raised.
I will declare that public hearing closed. Next, we have personal appearance. At this time, anyone attending remotely would like to address council, please use the raise hand feature.
The first individual is registered as Michael Tooley, and I will unmute that individual now.
Yes, thank you again. And I thank Mrs. Jock for forwarding my email to you to share the Excel spreadsheet I prepared for the basis of some of my comments. I know most of the information in this schedule is taken from city audit reports from 2015 through 2019. Regarding the general fund balance, you can see a balance at the end of 2016, $620,000, a number I consider dangerously low. And I believe the state controller recommended the city take action to increase it. The city did so by significantly increasing the tax levy in 2017. This resulted in an increase in the amount of taxes exhausting the constitutional tax limit that you can see in the schedule from 70% to almost 90%. But in the subsequent 3 years, where there were minimal or no increase in the tax rate, there was a decline in this percentage exhausting the constitutional tax limit, while at the same time fund balance increased each year, eventually reaching $2,572,000 as of December 31st, 2019. I also note that in each audit report, there's a section titled Economic Factors. In this schedule, I listed the factors stated in the past 5 city audits. They speak to the city's efforts, sometimes in partnership with others, such as the OBPA, to improve the local economy. I ask you to read through this list, which speaks to many business actions that improve the city's economy. My point in making these comments, over the past year, there have been many public statements made criticizing past city councils and city administration for fiscal decisions affecting the city and its citizens. In my opinion, I think information in this spreadsheet demonstrates that decisions made between 2016 through 2019 in fact strengthened the city's financial position, helped the city's economy. I believe these decisions were responsible and in the best interest of our citizens. And I think these numbers show the city is not in immediate financial peril, not headed to immediate bankruptcy.
Mike?
Yeah.
Can I? Yes. So that was a good increase from 2017 to 2018 with, like you say, a substantial tax increase, reaching really our tax limit. But from 2018 to 2019, after that huge tax increase and a tax increase that we cannot raise again, we only went up 300,000. And my point is, with our city expenditures growing over $500,000 every year, and that's without hiring anyone, this fund balance will be eaten away if something isn't done within 4 years.
All right. I'm going to address those comments later in my comments. I hope this doesn't infringe on my 5 minutes.
No, thank you, Mike. I'm sorry. We can give you a little longer. I just, because I interrupted you. Thank you.
But the comment, again, the comment I wanted to make is that the numbers shows we're not in immediate financial bankruptcy, not in immediate financial peril. We do have time to address some of these problems. Before I get back to speaking about that, I want to talk next about the ratification of the union contracts by City Council in November 2019. I appreciate and understand the frustration voiced by those elected to council last November when City Council ratified those labor contracts. However, based on my personal experience, I believe council had an obligation to ratify those contracts. An experience that I had many years ago while working as a business manager in a local public employer. I was on the administrative team negotiating a new labor contract with an employee union. We ultimately came to an agreement for a new contract with the union. When presented to the governing board, they voted to reject the negotiated contract. The union filed a grievance with the employer, citing unfair labor practice and a failure to negotiate in good faith. The grievance eventually worked its way to the New York State Public Employees Relations Board, who ruled in favor of the labor union and ordered the employer to adopt the negotiated contract. So while we may not be in an apples-to-apples comparison to our local situation with the city's fire department's union, I am concerned that any action taken that violates the existing contract will result in a legal decision that will not change enforcement of the current contract, but incur a significant legal expense. Returning back to schedule, I do think the current city council is right to pursue avenues to try to lower property taxes in support of the city budget. Certainly, voters in the city expressed a desire for change based on last November's results at the ballot box. And I think any citizen interested in local politics should not be surprised by some of the ideas that have been offered since January to reduce city taxes, including changes in the labor force. But what I ask is the city council to take a more deliberate approach to achieving a goal to incrementally lower property taxes over the next few years. Now, at the fire department budget workshop, Councilor Fisher posed the question as to where the money is going to come from to cover budget increases in the next 3 to 4 years. A legitimate question, similar to the legitimate concerns that you just offered, Mayor. To persuade the public that the city might be heading to fiscal calamity in the near future, I think, again, an update to a 5-year budget projection prepared by Sarah Purdy and Tim Johnson last January should be prepared and updated, only this time without the tight restrictions they were asked to work with. Take the time in 2021 to prepare this projection, perhaps reflect the impact of other alternatives, such as reasonable use of fund balance, perhaps modify the equipment replacement schedule to reduce the number that was in the figure in the budget for each of those 5 years, which was $738,000 a year. Perhaps project an annual increase in assessments of $5 million, which has been the increase in assessments, I believe, in each of the last 3 years. And then produce this updated document, make it available to the public, allow for a special meeting to discuss it and explain it to the community. Educate us with details, and if we can be convinced the city is headed to fiscal calamity, then we could be persuaded to join some of you in asking for help from city employee unions. But just saying the city is going bankrupt is not persuasive enough. I really don't think we need a knee-jerk action in 2021. We need to make haste slowly. And just one more thing to point out, and I don't know how things look in 2020, but looking at the audits in 2019, 2018, 2017, in the area of public safety, in each of those 3 years, the expense compared to budget, the expense was over $300,000 less than the amount budgeted. So if that number were to be repeating or close to repeating again in 2020, I think there's room to tighten up that budget to a degree to eliminate some of the fund balance.
I'm sorry, Mike. I put extra time back on for you, but we have so many possibly to talk to. Thank you, Mike.
I was basically.
Thank you. Kathy?
The next individual is registered as David Price, and I will unmute that individual now.
Council, I implore you to listen to the words of Michael Tooley. There is no one that I know in this city who is more versed, more articulate, and certainly has a better understanding and can break down a budget than him. He is the key individual to walk us through any crisis. He has offered you some very, very good advice. You should take it. You should understand that cutting him off is probably the dumbest move you could make. That man knows more about public budgets than anybody in that room or all the rooms combined who are watching this meeting. He really understands public budgets. He understands working with public unions, and he understands how to create and maintain and utilize a fund balance. Okay. Now, everything else aside, you've created a budget, which we haven't really seen yet, which does nothing but cut public service, and under your proposed tax cuts reduces our only source of revenue. Okay, you need to take a better look at your budget, shore things up. I implore you to enlist the help of Mr. Tooley, because he's brilliant when it comes to these matters. Take those things into consideration, because ultimately bankruptcy is not anywhere near where our city should be. As Mr. Tooley so eloquently pointed out, we had put that budget in a position to at least work towards a more solvent city. Okay, when you start cutting, and you're not just cutting expenses, as Jason Bouchard also said very well, you're not cutting just expenses, you are cutting middle level incomes that contribute to our tax base, that contribute to our overall economy. When you cut those types of jobs who are high-skilled labor, the only option is for them to leave the area to find better jobs. When they do so, you drive down the property values, which in turn drives up the property rate or the property tax rate, because you have to tax your property based on its tax valuation. I also encourage you to look up the terms consumer price index, inflationary rate, and then you'll see that a nominal rate of increase in taxes of 2 to 3% a year is not out of the ordinary. It's normal business as usual. It's easy to say we want to cut taxes. Yeah, that's popular with everyone. But in a city, we live in a city because of the services a city provides. When you take away those services, there's no reason to live in a city. You know, I implore you to take a look at this, because as much as I know that the city manager has some experience with bankruptcy, it's nowhere that our city wants to go.
That's enough. Cut him off.
The next individual is registered as Penny Sharrow, and I will unmute that individual now.
There's one other point I wanted to bring up, and I'm not sure of all the stipulations that the pilot program. I understand and I know that we are heavily loaded with tax exempt property and businesses or whatever. And they were approached a few years ago in regards to contributing towards the pilot program. I know a couple of them do. But I think maybe we're at the point where we need to, they didn't respond, I guess, and perhaps they need to be approached professionally. They have all the advantages of the fire department, and if their churches is burned down or starting to burn down, the fire department would be there. The police would be there if they got broken into. They've got all the amenities without paying anything. Maybe they can be approached and asked to maybe step up for a couple of years until we get back on our feet. And if you do it the right way, maybe if you had a meeting with them all together and just present our case, they see it all. I don't know why they haven't offered, except that why would people offer, I guess, I don't know. But maybe the pilot program needs to be approached again with some of the tax exempt properties. I mean, it just, it can't hurt. The worst they can say is no, or else not answer it at all. So I think that needs to be approached also. There's some way we can save what we got by asking for help and reaching out and opening our hands instead of cutting people around here. Okay, so thank you. Take that in consideration too, please. Again, it's teamwork, and maybe you can present that to them.
Thank you, Penny. Next, Kathy.
The next individual is registered as Angie McRoberts, and I will unmute that individual now.
Yes, I would like to follow up on Mr. Tooley's comments and his wisdom in the accounting field. I'm referencing the employment contract between the city of Ogdensburg and the current city manager. And part of it states that as part of the employee's annual performance appraisal on or about December 15th, the council at their sole discretion will consider a bonus based on percentage of the employee's annual salary. Number one, I hope with the dire straits that we are in financially, this isn't being considered. But if it is, I would like to suggest that instead of giving it to him, why don't we offer it to Mr. Tooley and have him sit down with you guys and go through line item by line item of the budget. He seems well versed in it, and it would probably help all of you out quite a bit. Is that something that you would consider? Mayor Skelly, I see you like to answer some people and not other people. I take it I'm probably not one of the individuals you're going to answer, but just thought I'd throw that out there as a reasonable idea. Mr. Tooley has obviously put in a lot of effort into doing his research and his homework, and he seems to make sense. So rather than give the city manager a bonus, why don't we look at giving Mr. Tooley a stipend?
Thank you for your suggestion.
And the other thing, I would hope that if you're still considering the bonus, it would be withheld until he at least becomes a resident of the city of Ogdensburg.
This is not about a bonus. This is about our budget.
No, this is citizen. This is personal appearance. I don't have to discuss any one topic.
Right. Well, you're not going to make it about one individual's pay.
It's part of the contract. A lot of the city probably doesn't know about the contract. That in these dire times, we're able to give a performance bonus to a city manager. I don't believe we've ever done that.
Nothing has been given.
It's written in the contract. Why would it be written in the contract if it wasn't a possibility?
The city manager on his own took a $12,000 cut in pay. That's pretty substantial, very generous.
It was very generous. So you guys paid him $120,000 a year, $2,000 more than somebody who had actual experience.
Experience that didn't work well for our city. But anyways, he did take a $12,000 cut on his own, and I for one, appreciate it. Thank you, Scott.
Oh, am I done? Am I 5 minutes up?
No, I continue on.
Oh,
I thought you were done.
All right, so the $12,000 pay cut, that isn't being made up in the stipend for the fire department?
It is not.
It isn't. So are you going to remove that budget line item when you present the new one?
It's been discussed of an amount for, we're gonna have a fire chief for, the money's gonna be there for that, so.
Got ya. Well, I hope you consider the offer from Mr. Tooley to help, so. It's
very nice.
It would behoove the city. So.
Yeah.
I guess I'm done. Thanks.
Are you done, Scott? I think he's done, Kathy.
I was gonna say, I believe he is, sir. The next individual is registered as Cynthia Lang, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears you are self-muted.
Hi, Kathy. Hi, everyone. I'm going to switch gears a little bit. I've been a little upset about the activity this weekend on Facebook with Mike Skelly. So I'm really horrified by the recent activity with him on Facebook. It appears that Mike does not possess the ability to feel any shame or remorse for his actions. If I even had a shred of respect for him, I would actually be embarrassed for him, but I don't, so I'm not. I believe we're now far.
Who's next?
The next individual is registered as Doug Loeffler, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears you are self-muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Once again, good evening, Ogdensburg.
Thank you.
I would hope that you would take Mr. Tooley's advice, Mr. Price's advice, and Mr. McRoberts' advice. And if you had any ounce of moving this community forward in a positive direction, you would sit down with him as quickly as tomorrow to hire him to get his ideas. It's very sad to see our mayor, Mr. Skelly, and our city manager, Mr. Jelly, stoop to the level that this community is witnessing.
Okay.
Like the majority of this community, I am shocked and disappointed by the men.
Who's next?
The next individual with their hand raised is registered as Cynthia Lang.
She will not come back.
Okay. I do not see any other hands raised. There is one hand that just popped up. It is a different registered name, sir. Did you want to proceed or?
No, thank you.
Okay.
And this brings us to correspondence. Do we have correspondence today?
We do. We have 3 letters.
Okay.
Dear Mayor, Council, and City Manager, defenders of democracy, such as Hercules and Thomas Jefferson, have always believed in the will of the people and popular sovereignty. Hercules' funeral oration outlined the greatness of democracy. Thomas Jefferson, of course, authored a famous document attesting to its demands. And now, as in times past, we are in need of a reminder of the principles which provide the basis for the democratic system that we all cherish. In any democratic form of government, there are many offices. Some of the important offices are called president, senator, congresswoman, congressman, assemblywoman, assemblyman, justice, governor, mayor, and councilor. But the most important office of all, the one with the most power, and to whom we entrust real decision-making, is the office of the citizen. Citizens make all of the decisions in a democratic society. We let our wants and needs be known to our elected representatives through various media, and they are expected to carry out our will. The citizens' role is to remain informed on the issues and hold the representatives accountable to the will of the people. Citizens' voices are not only heard on election day, but every day, regardless of who is sitting in the representative seats. The foundation of the office of the citizen is bolstered with access to accurate information provided by the elected representatives. When that foundation is corrupted with lies, deception, and restriction from access to information, the entire system fails. When you promise that jobs will be safe if you are elected and then systematically work to purge those jobs now and for future generations, you have failed the office of the citizen. When you set aside the system of law, the city charter, in order to move forward your personal agendas, you have failed the office of the citizen. When you hire a city manager without proper qualifications or through due process and pay him with public funds, our money, you have failed the office of the citizen. When you claim that the city attorney only works for a few of you and the city manager claims, quote, attorney-client privilege, end quote, to withhold information regarding taxpayer funds from councilors and the people, you have failed the office of the citizen. You, councilors and mayor, work for us. It's not the other way around. The city manager is an employee of the city. We, the citizens, are the city, and he works for us as well. He has no business telling us the way things will be. That's in our power to tell him. The city attorney works for us. We demand that all councilors and the public, when appropriate, have access to what the taxpayer pay him to do. It has come time to resurrect the words that demonstrate the principles of a democratic society so that you may all reflect upon who you serve and how you serve. Because as sure as we can measure the years in your terms, we will measure the recompense of the way you serve them. Thomas Jefferson's famous declaration of the tyrannical world, which threatened the livelihoods of the people that it served, provides us with a clear vision. As we address this city government, which has lost its duty of responsibility to the office of the citizen, which continues to ignore our requests, and which chooses to embrace personal goals over public safety, let those eloquently drafted words serve as your reminder. We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than the right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abusers and usurpations pursuingly invariable the same object evinces, a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Thomas Jefferson's words inspired the entire world to rise up and be heard. We will be heard as well. We will not relent. We will not forfeit our office of the citizen. We, the people of the city of Ogdensburg, demand that you serve us justly and end this tyrannical rule so that we can receive the services that we deserve and for which we duly pay our tax dollars. We, the citizens, are the city, and you serve us at our collective will. David Price. Members of the council, recently it's been decided that the only way to save our city from complete financial ruin is to terminate 10 positions from the Ogdensburg Fire Department. I, along with many members of our community, are completely opposed to this. I've heard over and over that people are willing to pay higher taxes just to keep the department fully staffed, and that speaks volumes about what Ogdensburg Fire Department means to this city. I have to wonder what other options were discussed. As it stands, so many people have shared ideas and asked legitimate questions, and all have gone unanswered, which at this point, no one is shocked at. We learned very early on it was your way or no way. I'm confident that many other citizens have relied on the fire department as I have. I'd like to offer a few examples of just why the fire department means so much to not only my family, but our entire city. 2 years ago, my son had an allergic reaction to his medicine while he was at the doctor's office. He had to be transported to the emergency room immediately as he was struggling to breathe. The doctor's office called the rescue squad. 15 minutes later, when they had not yet arrived and my son's condition was quickly deteriorating, they called again. Another 10 minutes went by when finally 2 older gentlemen came slowly walking in. They spoke 0 words to me. I rode in the ambulance with them and they wouldn't even respond to my questions. This isn't to bash the volunteer rescue squad. This is simply to point out that any longer than things would have taken a deadly turn for my son. In a completely opposite direction, my uncle was experiencing what we thought may be a heart attack this past summer at a local restaurant. As the manager called 911, my mother called me. I lived 2 blocks from the fire station, and by the time I raced to the establishment, Jason Bouchard and Jared Wells were already on scene, assessing my uncle and giving him oxygen. Both Jason and Jared were completely professional and kept my family in the loop of everything that was going on. It was less than 2 minutes from the time 911 was called to the time they were on scene. About 15 minutes later, the squad came. Please keep in mind that the squad and the fire department are dispatched at the same time from 911, yet there was at least a 20-minute response difference. My point is this: the Ogdensburg Fire Department serve as first responders for our city. If we start cutting positions, we are playing with fire, pun intended. If there is a fire and an emergency call at the same time, who goes where? Do we rely solely on the Ogdensburg Volunteer Rescue Squad to respond to emergency calls from now on, so the Ogdensburg Fire Department is free in the case of a fire? Look at the poor time management at the 2 examples I gave. This is unreasonable and putting the safety of our citizens in jeopardy. The reason the Ogdensburg Volunteer Rescue Squad takes so long to respond is that they are a volunteer agency. And if you move forward with your attempts to make our fire department fully volunteer, the same thing will happen. Extended response times lead to disasters. 5 years ago, I was on the market for a new home. One of the factors in searching was the proximity to Ogdensburg Fire Department and Ogdensburg Police Department. The reason behind this is my 11-year-old daughter. She has drug-resistant epilepsy, among a host of other health impairments. If you don't understand what that means, it means that she has seizures every day, all day long, and there are no medications that are helpful to her. We have required medical intervention more times than I can count, and knowing that Ogdensburg Fire Department is 2 blocks away and could be here immediately is what sold me. Epilepsy can be fatal, and if I lose my daughter because you are trying to save taxpayers a mere $80 a year, completely unacceptable. I'm sure most, if not all of you, know the connection that our family has with the Ogdensburg Police Department and Ogdensburg Fire Department. So yes, this is personal. Your treatment of our family when Scott passed, as well as your treatment of Jerry's, quote, insubordination, unquote, have both been disgusting. Scott and Jerry have both dedicated their lives to our city. They risk personal safety every day, in and out, and what do they get for their sacrifices? Both of their jobs on the line. Council, thank you for your time and the opportunity to speak today. Councilor Powers, Kennedy, and Scamperly, keep fighting the good fight. You have an entire community behind you. Sincerely, Aaron Reed, Batchville. The last letter to the Ogdensburg City Council and the citizens of Ogdensburg: grow up, stop fighting ancient history. There used to be 4 fire stations, so a crew for each station. Number 1, now there is better equipment and 1 station. We don't need that many to run the station. Number 2, there is now a volunteer rescue squad, which is not volunteer. For your information, a 6-block rescue is $700 plus to Potsdam is over $2,000. Number 3, every time a 911 call is made, a fire truck and crew rush to the same call as the squad does. Now, if the squad was in the fire department, that would not be necessary. Think about this. We are the only city in New York State bordering on another country, a huge country, and we are only 50 miles from its capital. We were once a nice little city with industry. Now we are a little border city with very little industry and lots of problems. We need to solve our own problems. We do not need someone from Albany who does not know anything about us except for unless it's election and their picture is in the paper. We don't need 20 firemen. We have 1 station, very few industries, and homes with fire alarms. Why can't the fire department be run the same as any other business? 12-hour shifts, a week at a time, no cooking or sleeping. This is the 21st century. We do not need Albany people who have relatives and friends in the fire department coming and telling us what to do. The last time she helped, she dumped the state hospital property on us. Norma Finley.
Okay. Next, we have our consent agenda. The claims as enumerated in the general fund warrant number 20-2020 in the amount of $549,533.43, and the library warrant number 20-2020 in the amount of $30,278.26, and capital fund warrant number 20-2020 in the amount of $4,290,326.99. And the community development fund warrant number 20-2020 in the amount of $9,252.95, and community renewal fund warrant number 20-2020 in the amount of $0 as audited be and in the same hereby are ordered paid. I so move.
I'll second it.
Kathy, would you please call the roll?
Any
Mayor Skelly?
Any conversation on the consent agenda?
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
A couple of questions here regarding some payables here. 4363 Ferguson Waterworks for $2,738.
What is it? Waterworks. 2,700. Yeah.
I think there were two new higher actors which Lisbon can't have that.
Say it again. What is it again?
There were two new higher shops, 3,700 or
2,700, yeah.
Yeah, two new higher shops.
Two hydro stops for the water, part of it paid for by, half of it paid for by Lisbon.
Terraform Power, check number 5345, Terraform Power on 11/20, $7,187.24. Who's Terraform Power?
Terraform Power. 5345.
Ninth one from the bottom. Ninth one from the bottom, going back up.
Doesn't show on that report.
Yeah, it doesn't show on this report change.
I know that the arena has two different power companies that has good.
Yeah.
Fire. And other companies too, but I don't know the name.
Yeah.
You know, what might help in the future is if anyone on the council has questions, we could bring them up and give the administration time to research.
This is one of the power suppliers. Yeah. And I can get back to specifically, Counselor. It's going to be one of our power suppliers.
And the last one would be 5160 Tyler Technologies for $3,000.
That's our
5160.
Say again. It's Tyler software is the software we use in the comptroller's office for water and sewer billing.
So with all this being said, and much of what's transpired in public appearances and whatnot here, you know, I'm really having a hard time wrapping my head around these public hearings and the fact that since Jump Street, our citizens aren't getting the answers that they're asking for. And I don't see this as a democracy. I see this as governing by fiat. I don't see where the checks and balances are here. We've asked numerous times, myself, Councilors Kennedy and Scamperly, and even Councilor Fisher to an extent, and to not be able to receive much of the information that not only brought up by ourselves, but from Mr. Tooley, from Mr. Price, from Mr. Mitchell, from Mr. Loeffler, and all the others. It just seems to me that this whole process is just completely undemocratic and disingenuous. And
Well, you're always
I'm not
welcome.
I'm not going to play role. I'm not going to play. I'm not done speaking yet.
Well, you can always answer. Mike.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
See you later. I'm out.
From my, if I may, Mr. Mayor. May I have the floor?
Yes, John.
You're breaking up.
I just think it's, democracy in action. We are the elected officials of the community, and we're trying to deliberate a budget process here while taking input from the public. We're not here to repeat those things, but we're listening to the public, and we're taking those things into consideration. I know I already have and have talked about them, and I don't think it could be any more democratic.
You're not even answering simple questions. When people are calling in, you're cutting them off.
You could answer any of those questions if you wanted to.
You ever hear of the First Amendment?
Got a motion on the floor.
So we have a motion on the floor.
I'll second.
Already have a second. Will you please call the roll, Kathy?
Mayor Skelly,
Yes.
Counselor Dilaba,
Yes.
Counselor Fisher,
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy,
Yeah.
Counselor Powers,
He left.
Counselor Reach,
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly,
No.
approved.
We do not have any appointments tonight, so this brings us items for council action. Items for council actions, we have one, and that will be read by City Manager Stephen Jelly.
A resolution to call for a special council meeting of the City Council on Wednesday, December 9, 2020 at 7 p.m. at City Hall, City Council Chambers, Artinsburg, New York.
I will introduce that.
I'll second it.
Discussion? Kathy, will you call the roll, please?
Mayor Skelly,
Yes.
Counselor Dilaba,
Yes.
Counselor Fisher,
Yes.
Counselor Kennedy,
Yes.
Counselor Reach,
Yes.
Counselor Scamperly,
Yes.
approved.
And this brings us to old business. Does anyone have old business? And this brings us to new business. Does anyone have new business? And this brings us to items for discussion. Does anyone have items for discussion? And this brings us to citizen participation. At this time, anyone attending remotely, use your raise hand feature.
The first individual is registered as David Price, and I will unmute that individual now.
Council, I just want to remind you, because the Councilor Reese talked about a democracy. I don't know if any of you know what democracy is, but democracy goes back to the ancient Greek Athenians who said every citizen has a voice in every decision. So democracy is not what's happening here. Demos literally means of the people, and ocracy is government. So government of the people, that's us, not you. So when you say this is democracy in action, it is not democracy in action. It's quite the opposite. This is more of a dictatorship, as Councilor Powers said, a government by fiat. Okay, so your rules have nothing to do with what the people want, and in a democracy, it is what the people want. Actually, what your government is a representative democracy where we elect representatives to put our will out there. As I said in my letter, you have failed to do so. You have failed to follow our will. Now, the need for a meeting on Wednesday, I'd like you to explain that, because you don't need that meeting. You had a meeting scheduled for next Monday. You can do all the business of the city on that meeting. You don't need a special meeting. The only reason for a special meeting is to take away the voices of the citizens, which is the opposite of democracy. Again, I can give you this lesson over and over. I can sign you up. I can probably charge you for it as an adult and say, you know, this is adult learning. But ultimately, democracy is a government of the people. We are the people, you are our representatives. You either do what we ask or you suffer the fate of not doing what the people ask. And history will show us that there is no government that has existed on the face of our planet that has opposed the citizens and won. Thank you.
History showed us last year. You're correct, Dave. Thank you.
Thank you, Dave. That was wonderful. You're absolutely right. This isn't a democracy, and it's a shame. You know what? We started off this meeting honoring how many military men that died in Pearl Harbor. Okay, this is a slap in their face.
Oh, grandstanding there, Dan. Who's next?
The next individual is registered as Ann Loeffler, and I will unmute that individual now.
Thank you, Kathy. I've sat here night after night listening to this nonsense. You people are ridiculous. And while you've been talking about this and cutting this one off and cutting that one off, there's such a thing as the First Amendment, Mike. Freedom of speech. I went through and I checked, and you know something? In anything I saw, there was nothing that said people were denied their freedom of speech because they did not agree with Mike Skelly or the other three on the council and your city manager. You're ridiculous. The people's voices need to be heard. It isn't just the voices of you, Steve Fisher, John Reich, Bill Dillenbaugh, and Mr. Jelly or whatever his name is. The people voted you people in. You want to cut the fire department? Are you serious? A month ago, they had a meth fire down at the towers. Let me ask you a question. How would it have turned out with one goddamn fire truck and 4 guys if that fire would have spread? Look what happened up at UH. Steve, you were there. You helped take your father out. If the fire department hadn't gotten there and had that under control before your outlying fire departments got there, the siding was melting. People already had smoke inhalation. It could have been really bad. You know, you say you care about the people of this town. Cut me a break. Mike Skelly, you stood with me in front of City Hall in April of this year when I had a food drive. And what did you say to me after? You thanked me, which I didn't need any thanks because it was a common, decent thing to do to help other human beings. But what you said to me was, I didn't even realize this. I didn't even think about this. When I go home, I sit down, Debbie makes me a nice dinner. I have food in my cupboards. And that's when I lost all respect for you.
And
you are voted no, Mike. Don't end me. Don't end me.
You
want the truth. You want the truth. You don't care about the people of this town. You care about Mike Skelly and
The next individual is registered as James McCarthy, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears you are self-muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes. I'd just like to make a couple of points. I know I've probably said this before, but I'll say it again. When I worked at the school district, we had some tough, really tough decisions to make when it came to budget time. We had to lay people off. But our administrators and our Board of Education showed respect and compassion when they made these tough decisions. They didn't pit citizens against each other to try to get people on their side and people to pick sides. There was a tough decision to make. It had to be made. But like I said, it was done with respect and compassion. I just wish I would see that same respect and compassion from this leadership, which I do not see. And there's probably a few other things I could say, but I think I'm just going to leave it at this. I keep hearing the voters spoke last November. That's correct. The voters spoke last November, but they don't quit speaking in November. There were a lot of campaign promises that were broken. There were people that voted for people because of their campaign promises, and they're going back on their word. keep that in mind. I know that might be a hard thing to do, but like Mr. Scott Sargent said, I think it was at the last meeting or the meeting before, that's what public referendums are for, to make sure that you're still in tune with the public. I think that you're out of reach with the public. I think you've got a common goal, a few of you do, to decimate this fire department. And this talk of this community and that community, they're volunteer, this is volunteer, that's volunteer. That's not an overnight thing. That's not something that can be done January 1st after you cut all these firemen. That's a long, drawn out process. We don't even know if we'll have the people to volunteer. And the bottom line is, people that are in favor of a volunteer fire department, most of them are not in favor of volunteering themselves. So what they want is they want a service that they do not want to pay for. Well, there's some businessmen sitting right up there at that council seat right now that own a business. People might want their services and they might not want to pay for them. So do you get volunteers? Do you get people to donate so you can give them free stuff, give them free services? No, that's not how it works. That's all. I just want to say I wish you would conduct yourself with more respect and more compassion. You're looking at cutting 10 people's livelihoods off and showing no compassion for them whatsoever, laughing about it. It's atrocious. It's atrocious. Thank you.
Kathy, anyone else?
The next individual is registered as Justin McCormick, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears you are self-muted.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Hello, my name is Justin McCormick. And I've lived in Ogdensburg for all 21 years of my life. Last November, all 4 councilors were elected via write-in vote, as you guys know. That night at Hosmer's, our family was there with our I voted stickers for the 10% off at Hosmer's. On the way out, we happened to run into Councilor Dillabaugh. Mr. Dillabaugh, he looked at my father and said, "Scott, I know you don't like us right now, but your jobs will be safe with me." I know at the last budget meeting, you said you do not support 10 people being cut. And I hope that you stay true to that Wednesday night. Thank you.
Thank you.
The next individual is registered as Michael Brashaw, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears you are self-muted. It appears your line is open.
Guys hear me?
Yes.
No, you cannot hear me. Can you hear
We
me?
can hear you.
Crap.
Would you like me to move on, Mayor, and see if she comes back?
Please. Yes.
The next individual is registered as Deborah Montgomery, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears you are self-muted. It appears your line is open.
Hi, good evening. Can you hear me?
Hello? Yep. Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yep. Yes.
Okay. Generally, I try to stay off here because it gets me too upset. Like so many people have said, you guys were voted in because of the promises you made and the things that you said. And it's too bad that so many of us really believed you guys, you know? And now, like, you've kind of mutilated the police force down to next to nothing. Now you're trying to do the same thing to the fire department. You know, I used to ride up Ford Street and you could see those guys and they were laughing and talking and it was such camaraderie. Do you know what I mean? And now from what I hear, it's not. It's awful because of the things you guys have done. When are you going to take some responsibility for the crap that you're creating in this city? I remember early on this summer, I called you guys repeatedly and asked questions. And do you not remember, Mike, me saying to you again, you're not going to answer my question? Why do you guys not give anyone an answer? You know what I would like for Christmas? I would like you guys to find your heart. You put yourself in the position of these firemen that you're wanting to let go. You think about their families and their livelihood. They've lived in this city for how long? Contributed into our well-being. They've paid taxes. They've done the things that people should be doing. Okay, Mr. Jelly, you've lived here how long? Do you live here? I guess that's probably a better question.
Your time is up. And you
Oh,
wanna
I'm
wrap?
sure it is, Mike. It was so lovely to talk to you. Merry Christmas, guys.
Thank you. Anyone next?
The individual registered as Michael Brashaw is back, and I will unmute that individual now.
Hello?
Hello, we can hear you.
All right, finally. I couldn't get it to work, sorry. This is Maureen Brashaw. And just wanted to say a few things. You guys are exhausting, first of all. Absolutely exhausting. And the fact that you keep bringing up the election in the fall is ridiculous. You know that people do not agree with you that voted for you in the fall. You know this. Yet you continue to bring that point up whenever anybody tries to speak to you. You never listen to anybody. You blatantly disregard the public. What you're doing to the fire department is an abomination. Our safety is priority number one, and it always should be. I don't know where you guys are coming from, cutting first responders and going after our safety like this. Do you actually want fires in Ogdensburg? Because that's what it seems like. I know you're not going to answer anything because you guys never do. And quite frankly, the only thing that's going to get this city back on its feet is the resignations of Steve Fisher, Mike Skelly, Bill Dillabow, and Mr. Reish. And take Mr. Jelly with you. Good night.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else?
The next individual is registered as Doug Loeffler, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears you are self-muted. It appears your line is open.
Can you hear me, Kathy?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You will see as taxpayers, we do have some rights in this government and community. The walls are starting to fall in on this administration, and you guys don't even realize it. It is going to happen, and it's going to happen when you least expect it. As taxpayers, we will be doing the clapping and the laughing, not you guys. I love the city of Ogdensburg. I have been a part of for over 60 years. It hasn't been perfect, but nothing is. But what it has been before this year, it has been caring, professional, loyal, compassionate, and a happy place to live and raise a family and come to work. Unfortunately, we are very dysfunctional, unhappy, divided, and unappreciated today. A very sad, sad situation in the city of Ogdensburg. As many people have spoken, your vendetta against the fire department is very atrocious. And I'll quote your city manager. The only people we are at odds with are the fire department, and they act like bullies every day. Rest assured, the organization is getting restructured my way. This administration's effect in this community is like an adolescent bully in a restaurant, harassing people and spreading false statements just to draw attention away from your lack of leadership and outright lies. And remember my first comment to you, okay? Remember it very, very well. As taxpayers, we do have some rights, and it's coming, okay? And you're going to get it, and you're going to get it from both sides. Thank you.
The next individual is registered as Brian Mitchell, and I will unmute that individual now. It appears you are self-muted. It appears your line is open now.
Good evening. I just had one question. Back the previous council used to have a public update where the city manager would update the public on updates of what is being improved, what isn't being improved. That public update has fallen to the wayside. I was just wondering if there's any chance of ever getting the public update, just to update us. And if not, I just had one question. If the mayor could unblock me on Facebook, that way I can see his true facts on Sunday. That would at least keep me up to date. So I'm going to publicly ask you if you'd please unblock me on Facebook. Thanks.
Anyone else?
I do not see any other hands raised.
Okay, we do not have a need for executive session tonight, so I will make a motion to adjourn this meeting. All in favor? Aye.
Mayor, I need a second. Thank you, sir.
Oh. All opposed? All in favor? Aye. All opposed? Any opposed? Adjourned. Okay.